Let us begin not with what we wish were true, but with what is. The first law, the foundational stone upon which all others are built, is a simple, brutal admission. The world you navigate is not a seminar on ethics. It is not a fellowship of equals seeking mutual betterment. It is an arena, a silent, ceaseless contest of wills, resources, and influence. To speak of the dark secrets of power is to first acknowledge this landscape. These laws are not invented, they are excavated. They are the fossilized patterns of behavior, the recurring strategic impulses that emerge when human ambition collides with human frailty across centuries of court intrigue, corporate ascent, and social warfare. Think of history, not the sanitized version in textbooks, but the raw, unfiltered chronicle of what happened behind the closed doors. The advisor who whispers a half-truth to a king to eliminate a rival, the general who feints weakness to draw a stronger enemy into a trap, the courtier who wears the mask of a devoted friend while meticulously cataloging every confidence as future leverage. These are not anomalies. They are the proven tactics of survival and dominance in environments where the stakes are ultimate. The 48 laws are merely a codification of these recurring victories. They describe the game that has always been played. Calling the rules dark is an emotional judgment. The predator does not consider the hunt dark, it considers it necessary. The game itself is neutral. Your awareness of it is your only shield. Your decision to play or not to play is your cross to bear. This is the uncomfortable core so many refuse to swallow. We crave a world that operates on fairness, on merit rewarded transparently, on kindness begetting kindness. And in our personal sanctuaries, with those we trust, we can build such places. But step into the wider theater, the boardroom vying for control, the political campaign, the struggle for legacy within an organization, and you enter a different ecosystem. Here the currency is often perception, not truth. The weapon is often patience, not force. The victory is often secured long before the public announcement is made. To be ignorant of this reality is to wander onto a battlefield unarmed, believing it a picnic ground. You will be consumed, not because your opponents are evil, though some may be, but because they are playing the game as it has always existed. They are using the grammar of power. You are speaking a language of ideals they have not heard. The darkness then is not in the book. The book is a spotlight. The darkness is in the unchanging nature of competitive human interaction when power, the ability to impose your will, to control your environment, to secure your position, is the prize. The laws expose the mechanisms. Law 3, conceal your intentions, is not a philosophy of deceit for its own sake. It is a survival imperative in a world where revealed plans become targets. When you show your hand, you give every other player at the table the blueprint to block you, to counter you, to co-opt your strategy for their own ends. Silence and misdirection are not moral failings in this context, they are tactical armor. Consider Law 15, crush your enemy totally. The modern mind recoils. It sounds barbaric. But translated from the language of medieval warfare to the reality of your life, when you leave a rival in a position to recover, you are not being merciful, you are being negligent. You are planting the seed of your own future downfall. They will return, and they will return with a lesson learned and a grudge that fuels them. The crushing is not necessarily physical. It is the complete and irrevocable neutralization of their capacity to threaten you again. In business, that may be an acquisition. In a debate, it may be the dismantling of their core argument so thoroughly that their credibility evaporates. The law describes the tactical logic of the victor throughout time. To dismiss it as dark is to misunderstand the nature of victory itself. So we start here, in this clear, cold light. This is the map of the territory. It does not care if you like the landmarks. It only cares that they are real. To study these laws is not an endorsement of cruelty. It is an act of profound intelligence. It is the decision to see the world as it is, not as you were told it should be. You can then choose your path with open eyes. You can decide to build a fortress of principles and defend it with the very same strategic awareness others might use to assail it. Or you can choose to navigate the shadows, using their contours for your own ends. but you can no longer claim to be an innocent bystander. The first secret, once exposed, cannot be unlearned. You now know the game is being played, and the most critical question is no longer about the rules, but about what you intend to do with that knowledge. Now that you see the board, understand this. The most decisive battles are not fought with resources, but with shadows. The true currency of power is not what is, but what is perceived to be. The second layer of this exposed truth is the mastery of perception, the dark art of crafting a reality so compelling it becomes truth itself, without altering a single solid fact. Consider a simple, brutal equation. What people believe about you is the cage they build for you in their own minds. It is the limit of their expectations, the boundary of their fear, the shape of their respect. Your task, should you choose to engage in this theater, is to be the architect of that cage. You must design the bars, choose the lock, and hand them the key, all while they believe they are looking at an open field. This is the essence of laws like court attention at all costs and conceal your intentions. They are not mere suggestions for the flamboyant or the secretive. They are the twin engines of a strategic identity. To court attention is not to be a clown. It is to command the narrative. In a world drowning in noise, obscurity is a deeper, more final failure than infamy. You must become a signal that cannot be filtered out, but the quality of that attention is everything. Are you seen as a trivial spectacle, a fleeting curiosity, or are you seen as an inevitable force, a phenomenon that demands reckoning? The difference lies in control. You do not simply seek a spotlight. You construct your own stage, your own lighting, and you choose the role you will play upon it. You become a symbol before you become a man. Let them see the crown long before they feel its weight. Let the rumor of your capability outpace the proof of it. This creates an aura, a buffer zone of reputation that precedes you, that does your work before you arrive. Others will fight the phantom they have imagined, exhausting themselves against the shadow of your own making, and this phantom is sustained by the second, more vital discipline, the total concealment of your true engine. Your intentions are the most valuable secret you possess. To reveal them is to give the world a manual on how to stop you. When your motives are a mystery, your power is magnified. People fear the unknown. They waste immense energy trying to decipher your moves, to predict your next step. They are paralyzed by possibilities. Every action you take becomes a Rorschach test. They see in it their own anxieties, their own schemes. They tie themselves in knots, interpreting a design that may not even exist. You move silently through the chaos you create. You speak in actions that are definitive, but your reasons remain a locked vault. Are you aiding an ally out of loyalty, or are you placing a long-term investment? Are you attacking a rival out of anger, or are you clearing a strategic obstacle with surgical precision? By keeping the why shrouded, you force the world to react to the what, and in doing so, you dictate the terms of every engagement. This is the dark secret of perception. Reality is negotiable. The facts are clay. The story told about those facts is the sculpture that endures. Did you retreat? Or did you strategically reposition to a more defensible vantage? Did you suffer a defeat, or did you willingly sacrifice a pawn to study your opponent's strategy? The facts are the same. The perception is the weapon. You must learn to narrate your own existence with the cold precision of a historian writing the victor's version. Never complain, never explain. Let your results, or the carefully curated illusion of your impending results, speak for you. Your image must be a self-contained fortress. It must radiate an aura of self-sufficiency, of having moves within moves, of operating on a plane of logic others cannot quite grasp. This mastery turns the social world into a hall of mirrors where you control the glass. You reflect back what others need to see, ambition to the ambitious, camaraderie to the lonely, threat to the rival. You become formless, adaptable, a creature of smoke and calculated impression. They will believe they have you figured out. They will craft their plans based on the caricature you have allowed them to see. And when the moment comes, uprage, and mirror suddenly goes dark, and the true shape steps forward, it will be far too late for them to adjust. The power you project becomes the power you possess, because in the end, people do not bow to force alone. They bow to the theater of inevitability. They yield to the shadow that is longer, darker, and more absolute than their own. Now you know the stage is made of mirrors. The next question is, what reflection will you choose to cast? With a stage crafted from perception, you must now understand the primary force that moves the players upon it. It is not logic, it is not reason. It is a more primal, more volatile currency, human emotion. And here lies the third, and perhaps most manipulative, secret exposed. For the true strategist, emotion is never a weakness to be suppressed. It is a weapon to be wielded, but only when it belongs to someone else. Your own emotions are a liability to be mastered, a furnace that must be banked, its heat channeled into purpose, never allowed to spill out and scorch your plans. This is the critical, asymmetric equation of power. Observe the common error. Most people are engines of feeling. They lead with their heart. They trust their gut. They make decisions in a storm of hope, fear, desire, or outrage. They believe their passion is their strength. It is not. It is a leash. And if you know which string to pull, you can lead them anywhere. This is the dark mechanics, behind laws like play on people's need to believe, and pose as a friend, work as a spy. They are blueprints for emotional puppetry. Every person carries within them a void, a need for something larger, for meaning, for a savior, for a cause to champion or a leader to follow. This need is a crack in their armor. Your role is not to fill it with substance, but to shape yourself into the key that appears to fit. You present the grand vision, the noble struggle tea, the promise of belonging. You speak to their deepest yearning, not with facts, but with feeling. You offer them a role in your narrative, and in their gratitude, in their inflamed passion, they will volunteer their labor, their loyalty, their blind spots. They will not see the strings because they are too busy feeling the thrill of the dance. You have weaponized their own hope against their critical judgment. Simultaneously, you employ the scalpel of feigned empathy. Posing as a friend is not about affection. It is about intelligence gathering under the most effective camouflage known to man, trust. When you listen, when you nod, when you offer the sympathetic word, you are not bonding. You are mining. You are mapping the fault lines in their character, their insecurities, their resentments, their unspoken ambitions. This data is not for comfort. It is for calibration. It tells you where to apply pressure. It reveals which emotional lever, when pulled, will generate the precise reaction you require. Will they move out of flattery, out of guilt, out of a fear of being excluded? You will know, because you have studied the schematic of their heart under the guise of mending it. And all the while, your own internal landscape must be a frozen lake, still, opaque, impenetrable. Your logic is the ice, thick, solid, capable of bearing immense strategic weight. Your decisions are not reactions. They are calculations. You observe the emotional hurricanes of others from a position of absolute calm. Their anger becomes a variable in your equation, their joy a potential distraction to be noted, their trust a vulnerability to be cataloged. You do not fight their emotion, you deploy it. You let their outrage charge against a rival. You let their pride blind them to a trap. You let their affection for you lower their guard. This is the supreme discipline, the decoupling of stimuli and response. An insult is not a wound, it is a probe, telling you the insulter's fears. A provocation is not a crisis, it is an invitation, revealing what your opponent wants you to do. By refusing to play the emotional game on their terms, you reset the board. They are throwing punches at a ghost, exhausting themselves against a foe who does not feel the blows. You are elsewhere, analyzing the pattern of their swings, identifying the moment of overextension. The dark secret is this reversal. The world will tell you to be passionate, to lead with your heart, to be authentic. That is the advice given to lambs. The player understands that authenticity is a costume to be worn when useful. True power resides in the ability to make others feel deeply, decisively. While you think coldly, clearly, you become the director of a play where everyone else is method acting, lost in their roles, while you alone hold the script and control the lights. So you see the mechanism. Their hearts are the fuel. Your mind is the engine. The question now becomes, what destination have you calculated? Direct force is the language of the desperate, the impatient, the weak. It announces your intentions with a scream. It meets strength with strength, guaranteeing collision, attrition, and a victor scarred by the very effort of their victory. There is a darker, more elegant physics at play for those who study the currents of power. It is the principle of social jujitsu, the art of making an opponent's own mass, their own momentum, their most cherished assumptions, become the instruments of their downfall. You do not oppose the wave, you guide it to crash upon the shore of your choosing. This is the exposed core of laws like win through your actions, never through argument, and disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. They are not about passive avoidance, they are about active, elegant redirection. Think of a matador. He does not wrestle the bull, he uses the bull's own blind, charging rage to exhaust it, to maneuver it, to position it for the final, graceful dispatch. Your opponents, your rivals, even your allies in a moment of conflict, are that force of nature. Their energy, their will, their strategy is a gift to you, if you know how to receive it. Arguing is the fool's gambit. It is a battle fought on the level of words, where ego becomes entangled with idea, and the goal shifts from truth to victory in a petty, vocal skirmish. To win an argument is to make an enemy. You have belittled their intellect, humiliated them in public, forced them into a corner. Their defeat becomes a debt they will seek to repay. But to win through action, that is a language beyond rebuttal. You do not proclaim your superior route, you simply arrive at the destination first. You do not denigrate their plan, you render it obsolete with your results. Action is final, argument is endless. When you act and succeed, you create a fact. And facts, as we have established, are the clay from which perception is sculpted. Your silent achievement becomes an unassailable monument. Their clever words are just echoes that fade against its stone. You let the outcome speak your argument for you, in a voice so clear it silences all protest. Then there is the mirror, a more subtle, more maddening tactic. When faced with aggression, with duplicity, with grandstanding, the instinct is to become its opposite, to meet aggression with pacifism, duplicity with naive honesty, grandstanding with humble work. This is predictable. This is what they expect. The mirror reflects them. You become an echo, not a mocking one that is just another form of opposition, but a perfect, empty, disconcerting replica. The narcissist meets your own, amplified self-regard. The bully meets a calm, able object that reflects his own fury back at him. The deceiver finds you employing his own methods of obfuscation with a blank, unreadable face. Why does this disarm and infuriate? Because it denies them the conflict they crave. A fighter needs resistance. He needs something to push against, something that defines his own strength by contrast. The mirror gives him nothing but himself. There is no opposing force to measure, no weakness to exploit, just the haunting, endless return of his own image. It forces him to confront his own tactics, stripped of their intended effect. He is left fighting a phantom, expending energy against a vacuum. He will inevitably overreach, stumble, make a mistake born of sheer frustration. And in that moment of self-created chaos, he is exposed. This is the essence of yielding power. You absorb, you bend, you flow around the obstacle. You let the opponent's charge carry him past you, off balance. You use his belief in your weakness as the trap. He believes you will retreat, so he advances recklessly. He believes you are honorable, so he plans for treachery you will not employ, blinding himself to the simpler, more direct move you actually make. He believes in your anger and waits for the explosion that never comes, confused and destabilized by the silence. Your strength, therefore, is never where they expect it to be. It is not in your fist, but in your stance. Not in your claim, but in your proof. Not in your resistance, but in your adaptability. You are the void that shapes itself around the attack. You are the water that fills the container of their strategy, then finds the crack they did not see and flows through, undermining the foundation. You never do what their pride, Their anger, their logic demands you do. You operate on the oblique angle. So you see, power is not about being the anvil. Everyone expects the anvil. It is out being the tide, relentless, patient, and capable of dissolving the mightiest cliff, not through confrontation, but through perpetual, gentle, inevitable pressure in the places it is least resisted. The lesson is clear. Never be the object of the force. Be the author of the momentum. Now, whose weight will you use to break them? Alliances are necessary. Networks are useful. But they are scaffolds, not foundations. They are bridges you may cross, but never a home in which you reside. The fifth secret, the most profound and isolating, is this. In a game defined by shifting loyalties and conditional support, the only territory that can never be truly betrayed, the only fortress that cannot be surrendered from within, is the self. This is the sovereignty mindset. You are the kingdom, you are the border, you are the final law. Laws like do not commit to anyone and use absence to increase respect and honor are not prescriptions for a life of lonely misery. They are the defense protocols for a sovereign state. To commit is to create a dependency, and dependency is a chink in your armor, a point of leverage you voluntarily hand to another. When you are needed, truly, desperately needed, by a person, a group, an outcome, you are no longer free. Your options narrowed to the width of that need. Your fears multiply around the possibility of its loss. You begin to make decisions not from strategy, but from anxiety. You tolerate insults, you accept poor terms, you sacrifice long-term position for short-term security of that connection. This is the price of attachment in the arena. The other party will sense this dependency, consciously or not, and their respect for you will diminish in exact proportion. Why would they fear the judgment of someone who cannot afford to walk away? Do not commit to anyone means maintain a permanent state of strategic ambiguity. Let your loyalty be a question mark, not a period. This does not make you an enemy. It makes you an unknown variable. And in the equations of power, the unknown variable is treated with caution, with deference, with a desire to appease. People will work harder for your favor, offer more to secure your alliance, if they believe it is perpetually in flux. They must believe you have other options, other tables at which you could sit. Your value is defined by your perceived ability to leave. The moment they are certain you have nowhere else to go, your value plummets. You become a cost, not an asset. This is why absence is not emptiness. It is amplification. Presence, no matter how impressive, becomes familiar. Familiarity breeds, if not contempt, then certainly a reduction in awe. The mind adjusts. The extraordinary becomes ordinary. But absence is an echo chamber for your reputation. When you withdraw, you create a vacuum. And into that vacuum rush speculation, memory, and often a retrospective polishing of your image. Minor slights are forgotten. Past strengths are magnified. The problems that arose in your presence are now keenly felt, and your potential solution to them is romanticized. You are no longer a flesh and blood person with flaws. You become a symbol, a standard against which the present company is found wanting. Your return is then not a resumption, but an event. Respect is recalibrated upward. Honor is bestowed by their longing. But this requires a terrible, essential strength, the ability to be your own society. Your validation, your purpose, your sense of worth cannot be sourced from the applause of the court, the pat on the back from the mentor, the cheers of the crowd. Those are fickle winds. You must build an internal citadel. Your judgment must be the final court of appeal. Your approval must be the only one you truly need. This is not arrogance. It is the ultimate strategic insulation. When you do not need their love, you can command their respect. When you do not fear their disapproval, you can act with a clarity that seems like ruthlessness. You are negotiating from a position of authentic strength because you have already considered the walk-away point, and you are prepared for it. This sovereignty transforms every external relationship into a choice, not a necessity. You engage because it serves a purpose of your own design, not because you are hungry for the connection itself. This makes you a better ally, a more reliable partner because your participation is deliberate, not desperate. It also makes you a more formidable opponent, because you have no emotional hostages they can take. Your kingdom is sealed. They cannot lay siege to a fortress they cannot find. So you stand alone even in a crowd. Your hand is offered but never your neck. Your resources are shared but never your core. You are present but always with the silent, unspoken capacity for absence. This self-containment is the root of true power. All other laws are tactics, maneuvers on the board. This is the philosophy of the player. It is the understanding that the only game that ultimately matters is the preservation and expansion of your own autonomy. The world will try to make you a subject in its empire. Your first, last, and only duty is to remain its king. We have walked through the machinery. We have examined the gears of perception, the levers of emotion, the physics of redirection, and the fortress of self. But now we arrive at the final, and perhaps only redemptive truth, these laws expose. The greatest secret is not how to use them. It is that they exist to be seen. This knowledge is not primarily a sword. It is a lens, a diagnostic light. And when you train it upon the world, a profound shift occurs. You are no longer a subject living in a story written by others. You become the analyst reading the code. This is the ultimate exposure. The book, these laws, this dark grammar of influence, they are a mirror. And when you hold it up, you do not see just your own reflection. You see the reflections of every move made around you. You see the flattering colleague not as a friend, but as a practitioner of law too, concealing his intentions. You hear the public outrage of a rival and recognize the calculated deployment of emotional weaponry from Law 3. You witness the sudden, gracious withdrawal of a competitor and understand it as the strategic absence of Law 16. The blurred, confusing chaos of social maneuvering snaps into a stark, clear diagram. You see the strings. You identify the puppeteers. You recognize the game board. And with that sight comes the only true freedom this knowledge grants, the freedom from being a pawn. You are inoculated. The spell is broken. The emotional hooks find less purchase because you recognize the hook for what it is, a tool, a deliberate implement. The grand narratives designed to enlist your fervor reveal their architecture. You can admire the craftsmanship even as you refuse to enter the story. This is defensive power of the highest order. It is the power of interpretation. You are never again truly blindsided because you have studied the patterns of the ambush. This does not condemn to a life of icy, joyless suspicion. It empowers you to a state of conscious choice. You can now choose, with eyes wide open, when to play the game and when to simply observe it. You can engage in an alliance, fully aware of its transactional nature, and thus engage more cleanly, more effectively, without the poison of future betrayal, because you never believed it was anything else. You can spot the manipulator and, instead of falling victim, you can choose to play your own countermove, or you can simply step off their board entirely, leaving them to perform for an audience of one. Their power exists only where it is granted belief. You now control the grant. The choice, then, is yours, and it is the only choice that matters. Will you take up the sword and become a player, navigating the shadows with these laws as your guide, accepting the solitude and the moral weight that comes with that path? Or will you wield the lens alone, using this vision as armor, as a way to move through the world without being its fool, protecting your own kingdom and principles with sophisticated awareness? Both paths require the same first step, seeing the game for what it is. The speech is finished. The mirror is in your hands. What do you see?